Hey team, it's Andrew Houston here from Prof for Contractors, and I got a little secret to share with you that I think all of you contractors out there can relate to. It's a problem that 95% of contractors have, which is they don't have clarity of how to quote their jobs properly. I'm not talking about, if they're charging enough, adding enough time to their jobs or adding enough material. I'm talking about the core foundation, like the core foundation and the biggest mistake that contractors are making when it comes to quotes. So stay tuned on this here. It's going to be about a 5 or so minute chat we're going to have. I want to share with you guys the insights that you need to have in order to make sure that you're quoting profitably every single time. Had a client come to me just this week. And the biggest challenge he had was he couldn't understand why the heck isn't his bank account going up. He's quoting all these jobs. He's winning these jobs. And here's the thing. Your cash flow going up in your bank account is not going to be just due to solving this area, but this is one of the key areas. Here's the fact. If you can't quote your jobs profitably, imagine if we use this analogy of playing a game of sports. If you're not quoting profitably, you're getting on the field. You're getting on the field, whether it's a football field, baseball field, whatever. You've already lost the game. Like you're already screwed. All right. So we got to make sure that right out of the gate we're using the right principles to quote profitably every single time. So how do we go about doing that? Let me see if I can pull up my little iPad here. Where is that little thing here? Trying to find I see the problem is. Just give me a second, team. Trying to use some technology to share this. So let's see if we can get the gremlins out of the system today and make it work. All right, cool. So hopefully you guys can see this. I'm going to walk through with you step by step exactly what we got to do to make this happen. So the very first place, I'm going to start here at the bottom of this triangle. Hopefully you guys can see this okay. The very first thing that we have got to get nailed is this area called our break-even margin. Let me explain that to you. Your break-even margin is the amount of margin that you've got to put on your quotes to cover your overhead costs. Accountants might call that fixed cost. I might call it your overhead costs. It's basically the expenses that you've got to pay to keep the lights on that have got nothing to do with sales. So that'd be salaried employees, that'd be some of the taxes, that would be the electricity, anything, the hydro, the phone, any service that you've got to pay that regardless of you getting a sale, you got to pay it. Okay? So your break-even margin is absolutely critical. If you're not calculating your break-even margin, you could be quoting jobs thinking that, hey, I'm putting 20 points on this job. I'm putting 25 points on this job. And if your break-even margin is at 20 points and you're quoting close to 20 points, you're already screwed. You're not even barely covering your overhead costs. So that's the number one thing that we've got to figure out. And by the way, here's the scenario that I had with one of my clients, John, this week. So he tells me, he goes, yeah, I can't figure out whether or not I'm quoting profitably or not. I said, so how do you normally quote, John? He says, well, I was talking to my accountant, and my accountant's told me over the last 4 or 5 years that the industry average that I should be using is around 30 some points. I said, the industry average. He goes, yeah. It's what roughly other people in the industry are charging. Let me tell you something. That is the stupidest thing. If your accountant tells you that, sorry, accountants and bookkeepers out there, but if your accountant tells you that, they should be instantly fired. The reason being is that your break-even margin and somebody else's break-even margin is going to be totally different, because one of the things included in that break-even formula to calculate your break-even margin is fixed costs, is the overhead cost. So, if somebody's got less guys, if somebody's got a smaller facility, if somebody's got different scenario, and every contractor is going to have different fixed costs, and every single contractor's break-even is going to be different. Some is going to be slightly, some is going to be huge. So do not go with the industry standards. If anybody tells you that, they don't have a clue what they're talking about, okay? So your break-even margin, you got to calculate that. And I'm going to show you guys how to figure all this stuff out before we finish up this call, okay? So your break-even margin is huge. Break-even margin in the world of, again, I just like using analogies. in sports would be like 0-0 on the scoreboard. So imagine you played a game of hockey. I'm a goalie. Imagine, I try to be a goalie, but imagine you finish a game of hockey or sports and you look up at the scoreboard and it's 0-0 at the end of the game. Okay. Or it's 1-1. It's tied. Nobody's won. Nobody's lost. Okay. That's what break-even margin is in your business, okay? So if you use that margin, it's just meant to break even. It's meant to make sure that you're including that amount of margin to cover off your overhead costs, okay? Now, we can go into this a lot deeper, but you want to use that for your budgeting and all different aspects of your business. So if you're looking at your quotes right now and you're wondering, hey, am I even quoting properly? You've got to get that figured out first. Second, which is the area that I love, okay, more than anything, break-even margin is something you have to apply. This baby right here, okay, which is your profit break-even, okay? I don't know why that's come up like that. Okay, that's no problem. But your profit break-even is absolutely the key. The profit break-even is, well, how much profit do you want to make on your jobs, okay? How much profit do you want to make when you go to quote the job? Because, look, we don't want 0-0 on the scoreboard. We want to be profitable, right? So the profit break-even is key to making sure that you use that number, and I'll show you how to get insights on how to do that so that you're making money. I mean, why the hell are we in business, right? We're in business to make money, right? Hence our company is called Profit for Contractors, because we specifically help contractors become more profitable. That's one of the areas, okay? So that's the next level that you got to get to. After that is in order to apply it properly, you have to know the difference between margin and markup. So let me take a step back. If I asked you at the beginning of this, if I said to you, what is your break-even margin, and you didn't know the answer to that, no worries, okay? But you sure as hell better pay attention here. Number two, if I asked you right now that if you wanted to put 10% or 20%, let's say 20% on a job where it's going to be costing you, and we'll just use fictitious numbers, $1,000, and I said I want 10% margin on that job. If the answer to that, so just pause and think about this for a second. So hopefully you got an answer. If the answer to what you would charge the customer on $1,000 of expenses for that job, as far as labor and material, was $1,000, and I said that I wanted 10% margin, and your response to this would be that I would charge the customer $1,100, then you need to really pay attention here, because that's the wrong answer. That's using what's called markup, okay? And when we go to figure out our break-even margin, we do not want to use markup. We want to use the right formula for margin. Again, I'm going to show you how to get that in just a second. So make sure you understand the difference between margin and markup, okay? It is crucial. On somebody that's quoting a job that's around 20 plus points, if they use if they use markup instead of margin, they would be basically losing between 4 and 5% on every job that they quoted versus them using the proper markup formula. Okay? Last one. You want to have a cheat sheet. You want to make this to be simple. Okay? So some people might be listening to this going, you know what? Oh, I don't know if I have the time for this. Well, let me tell you something. If you don't take the time to do this, then you're spending all that time, your guys' time, your team's time, your crew's time, the office time, doing jobs potentially that are at risk of being non-profitable, okay? And I see it all the time where, we got profitable work paying for non-profitable work. We got to stop that right away, okay? So we got to get this nailed, all right? So as far as time goes, I'm going to show you where you can get a cheat sheet in just a second, where you can slap it up on the wall. You can define what your break-even point is. You can define what your profit break-even is. You can understand what margin versus markup is, and you can use a quick little done-for-you cheat sheet that you can go to, your guys can go to it, and know with a little couple of presses of a calculator what you're going to use as far as your multiplier. Okay, go so that you don't have to do any fancy math. It's not difficult. Okay, and the other best thing about this is that it's repeatable. Okay, you want to get something that's repeatable so that if somebody else, and eventually you as owners, we want to change it from contractors to owners, is that we want to get you the ability that you can let these types of things go, and you know that if somebody else does a quote in your company that it's going to be profitable, okay? So Those are the 5 key things that we got to look at if we want to quote jobs profitably. And we're not talking today about running them profitably. We're not talking about kicking them off. We're just talking about the core foundation of you quoting jobs profitably. 95% of contractors, so don't feel alone, do not know how to do this properly. Okay? I just had a talk I did there a few weeks ago in front of 70 contractors, and I asked them if anybody can tell me what the formula is for a break-even. For the break-even margin. Not one person could raise their hand to tell me this. So, hopefully this is helping you guys out. Let's go to how the hell you can get access to something that's going to help you along the ways of accelerating, getting you the answers to each one of these 5 things. So let's take a look at that. So what I've created for you guys, okay, is really a tool that can help you guys nail down all the answers to these 5 different areas. So let's just flick through that. It's going to explain to you what the difference is between the different phases of break-even, profit break-even, your multiplier, difference between markup and margin. I'm going to tell you what the benefits are. I'm going to show you guys how to calculate your break-even. I'm going to show you guys how to calculate your profit margin break-even. I'm going to show you guys an example of this so you can actually take it and apply it, and also, ensure that you understand the risks if you don't apply this. And this is killer. So you want to take this sheet, you want to print this sucker out, okay? And you want to be able to draw lines in the sand to ensure that you know what the red zone is, you know what the yellow zone is. Red zone is do not quote in this zone and using this multiplier because we're going to be putting ourselves out of business. The yellow zone is like, you might want to stay away from that, but at least it's, it's not going to cause you to go bankrupt. And the green zone is where we want to go, where we want to highlight our profit break even. So guys, if you want that tool, just type in, quoting profitably into the chat box and we can get that to you. The other thing I want to share with you guys is the mindset around this, okay? It's tiring to hear that people say, I don't have time to learn this kind of stuff. Honestly, if you don't have time to understand these areas that I've just laid out for you, I'm going to be straight up with you. You might want to reconsider being a business owner, okay? Because these are key things you need to know as a business owner to ensure that you're profitable every single time. If you tell me that it's too complicated, I've broken this down for you so that you can actually take it and run with it, and give it to your team, hand it to your team so they can learn it and apply it, okay? We are on a mission from Profit for Contractors to make you guys go from being, stuck in the trenches, working so hard for so little, and start actually making the money that you guys deserve and what you're worth. So with that being said, I'm going to start wrapping up today's call. We do have an upcoming webinar, which is going to be killer, no filler, which is going to show you guys, which is one of the biggest challenges, is going to show you guys where to start in your contracting business, all the way from the start, all the way down through step by step, the 9 different areas in order that you've got to look at so that you know where you got to start specific to your contracting business. If you want to register for that, guys, let me just pull this up here for you. I'm just going to go to the website myself here. So you go to profitforcontractors.com and you basically, simple as this, click on this little red area here. Click on that. We're going to be, we only got 100 spots. I think we're already up to about 50 or 60 spots so far. And it's out a couple of weeks, so make sure you get booked in for this. So really what it's about is showing you guys the 3 secrets of how to master and get back your time, which is one of the most precious things. Second thing is about maximizing control of your profits. We just touched like a hair of the head today. So we're going to identify where you got to look, even outside of quoting, to make sure that you guys are maximizing your profits. And the third place, dominating your market, right, is about making sure that you get as much wallet share out of your prospects in your area to make sure that you guys dominate the market beyond just freaking lowering your prices, okay? And how to go about doing that. And we're going to be sharing with you guys a lot of great insights, other tools similar to this that you guys can get access to. So hopefully I will see you guys on the flip side. This is Andrew Houston from Profit for Contractors. Make sure you get the right mindset about applying these principles. So many people, take insights and they just let them sit on the shelf and collect dust. This is easy to use. This is something you can share with your clients, even this webinar. Sorry, not clients, but your team members. And it's something that you have to have, okay, to grow and scale your contracting business. So that's it, guys. We will catch you on the flip side. Hopefully this was beneficial. I'd love if you got any questions or insights, share this with anybody, and both the tool and the webinar, and that would be great. Again, if you want the tool, just put in pricing profitably, and we'll get that out to you. And we'll see you guys hopefully on the flip side. Ciao.